You're listening to Second Cut. This is the weekly podcast from thefilmmagazine.com where I am approximating where exactly in the theme song we are. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who needs you to get your hands off me.
I'm Sam.
Did I steal yours?
Yeah.
You literally are like when they capture them in the original, they can't speak.
Yeah. No, that they yeah. I'm just so furious that they blew it up. They actually finally did it.
Yeah, and I'm Kieran. I'm the damn dirty ape that lives in a madhouse. I tell you, a madhouse.
Yes. Shout out to Bagsmaster99 for throwing in the quote already. It's actually surprising how quotable that first movie is.
And I would struggle to think of another line of dialogue from any of the others apart from Apes Together Strong.
And you're the one that actually has gone through and watched all of them, so you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is your show, and the rest of us are chipping in various bits because we have better things to do with our time than watch like all the original sequels.
Well, yeah. So that's the fun thing. I didn't know there were like 50 sequels to the first one. So
you thought that was just the first one. It gets remade as Burton.
Yep, that's how I thought it went.
Look, you're exaggerating. There are 5 original films, and then
there's a TV series, an animated version. There's a couple of comics.
Yeah, I've not seen the TV show, not seen animation, but yeah, I've seen.
This is how well prepared we are on this show.
So I've seen all 10 films multiple times.
Well, that's good. We have a lot of questions to get to, so let's jump into the first one. I'm going to start with Liam's here, and maybe I should defer to Sam first. Sam, how has this franchise lasted so long? And that's a question I had as well.
I think money's got a lot to do with it. It's a ridiculously successful franchise. And in the original run as well, in the 60s, 70s version, each one just kept making money because they gradually whittled down the budget on each subsequent film. So, it
must be one of the only film franchises in the world where you have sequels next to each other where they decrease the budget.
Yeah,
like everything else, they put more money into it.
I know. But yeah, it's just really popular. I think it had that really kind of vivid idea of the first film, which people really kind of cottoned on to, and they just wanted to see more films in this world. And you had 20 years where they were trying to think up a new way to tell a story before you had the Burton reboot. But yeah, generally,
I think that version got made because Tim Burton said, "I want to do Planet of the Apes," and he got that much kudos at that point that people let him. Which, in hindsight, was not a good idea.
Well, I think what's weird to me is that like, in so many of the movies, the monkeys are apes, not monkeys. I was sitting there watching the 2001 version, and I was like, when are they going to say that monkey is a slur? Like, when are they going to get to that? And fortunately, they do. But yeah, like, it's such an uncanny valley having humans as apes. And even in the original, like, it's fine in 2001 when they're on screen for about 10 minutes, and then Planet of the Apes movies, like, it's just so weird watching this many apes talking and interacting with humans in their uncomfortable, uncanny valley faces.
I think the makeup in the original is really good, especially for the time. John Chambers, really revolutionary kind of makeup artist.
Yeah, it won an honorary Academy Award for Outstanding Makeup Achievement, nominated for 2 Oscars for costume design and original score by Jerry Goldsmith, which makes sense.
Yeah. And they were it's so good, we have to make something up for it.
Yeah. Normally that's how you can tell that something is very good, which I'm still surprised, that they didn't do an honorary award for Andy Serkis for pretty much anything he's done, but definitely anything he's done as a
honorary best picture for every like outrageous loss.
What impressed me about the makeup in the originals in particular is yeah, it is kind of as you say, it is a bit jarring at first to modern eye, but it's remarkably flexible, remarkably expressive considering how heavy the makeup job is. You can
Yeah,
kind of see the actors' expressions, and there is kind of some movement there, or at least enough, to kind of
yeah,
give the actors a full range of emotions. And obviously that's just updates in time. That's
yeah,
obviously it was Rick
yeah,
Baker's work with the Burton film, and then the Weta Digital's mo- motion capture stuff. It's always about the actors' kind of performances shining through, and you have these kind of compelling, in theory, non-human characters, although they are quite human characters in the leads. You got to have the effects from the sense like that. It's got to work, or else you're just going to be brought out of it.
yeah. Imagine if somebody, in the nicest way, and we'll be discussing it next week. If Roger Corman had got hold of it, it would be a completely different thing. You know what I mean? It would have started off
Yeah,
with a tenth of the budget to begin with, and it would have been somebody in a mask.
yeah,
This is proper,
yeah.
like, prosthetics when you had no other choice because there was no digital, and it looks great still.
And
I mean,
we
yes,
have
some
to
of the
say
mouth
had,
movements.
sadly, if he had gotten a hold of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'll be next week's episode. So look forward to that one. Spoilers.
Spoilers, he died. R.I.P. I'm discomforted by death, and that's why I'm laughing. So I think I'm going to go with James's question before we get to Liam's other one. Why has no one made
Yeah.
why has no one made a Stop the Planet of the Apes, I want to get off film yet?
Yeah.
Isn't that every Planet of the Apes film?
yeah.
I mean,
So I think that's reference to the Simpsons gag, isn't it? So, which is probably a lot of people's touch of this franchise. If they somehow haven't seen the original film, will have seen that Simpsons skit, where Troy McClure is starring in a musical version of Planet of the Apes.
I have not seen that.
Oh
I'm
God!
not a
yes.
Simpsons person.
I've also not
so-
seen that bit.
Oh my God! So yeah, like the centerpiece is like a musical number where they're repeatedly singing name of the main orangutan, Dr. Zaius, to the tune of "Rock Me Amadeus."
Okay, now I need to see what's happening
Yeah.
after this. If I suddenly don't speak for 10
Yeah.
minutes, I'm YouTubing it very, very quickly.
Well, there should be a Planet of the Apes musical. I mean, that's probably or a comedy. I think it's very ripe for a
Stage play
variety of
adaptation.
genre.
I mean, and it's not like having a comedy sketch about a pretend musical prevents the actual musical from coming about. I mean, Hunchback of Notre Dame, had like there was a sketch I think on the Critic, for like this bizarre idea for like a Hunchback of Notre Dame musical, and then on the back of that you had the Disney version, and you had a French actual musical of Hunchback. So
I think a stage play version would be great. Does it? No, Dara Breen used to do a thing of what would you want to see, like instead of like for like 10, 11-year-olds doing as a play, and I go, I think like 11-year-olds for like a end of primary school, beginning of high school version of Planet of the Apes would be great. Just for the fun of it, just to see what would happen.
Well, now I'm thinking it should be apes like cats, where they're
no.
Jellicle ape. No.
Yeah, if that happens, I don't care if you have nothing to do with it. I will still fly to Texas, find your house, and punch you in the face for it.
I want to be involved in it. Sam, is there another genre you'd like to see Planet of the Apes adapted to?
Planet of the Apes stolen the stuff.
Let's have a black and white Planet of the Apes where they're all wearing suits and trilbies.
It's either that or you've got to go ridiculous like Planet of the Apes version of Felix the Cat.
Yeah.
Oh, or who's that cat that you did, Sam? The sexy cartoon cat?
Yeah, that's Felix the Cat.
Oh, right.
Fritz cat, yeah.
Fritz the Cat, that's it, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the apes. Oh, never mind. No, I'm out on that.
Cross it with a bit of, like proper, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas kind of stuff, like proper high
Yeah.
bat crazy out of their heads
I mean,
style.
going back to kind of the question about like how has it survived so long? Obviously, yeah, it keeps making money, but it's because it's one of those stories that you can apply it to whatever's happening in the world at the time.
Yeah.
It's a massive kind of parable for whatever you like. In the 60s versions, it was all Cold War paranoia and kind of stuff like civil rights. And then it kind of over time it just it handily slots into whatever socio-political point you want to make. In the more recent versions are very much more environmentalist kind of in their messaging, which kind of makes sense because of how we're screwing up our own planet.
Yeah, and I also think the original, obviously the novel came out in '63. I don't know the backstory, but I would not be surprised if the kind of 100 years of Darwin wasn't a thing, because obviously it would have been 100 years in 1960. And actually, when you think about the fact that you had 2001 come out in 1968 as well, that kept working on for many years, I find it quite hard to believe that just a kind of almost like a retrospective of Darwin wouldn't have come up. And the more I think about it, even doing stuff on ghost stories, my area, the more I think actually that Origin of Species, this is a kind of a tangent, but it's still monkeys and evolution. I do actually believe that Origin of Species is the single most like game changing in terms of the entirety of human civilization publication ever written.
I think that what's weird about these movies is like the technological and like social evolutionary place that apes exist in, because like they dress like they're in the Middle Ages, but their society is pretty advanced, and I don't know. It's a very odd place in, I'm sure, all of the movies that aren't the prequels.
By the way, Sam, we're starting a game that every time Jacob says monkeys instead of apes, we take a drink. Anybody watching or listening, 3 weeks down the line, take a drink every time he says monkeys.
Bagsmaster, get your bourbon in hand. I don't know if I'm allowed to encourage drinking on YouTube, so if I'm not, that was a joke. But my vote.
Drink responsibly.
My vote is the Western genre. I would like to see, during the formation of ape society, them have some showdowns on the frontier.
The good, the bad, and the chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you one thing we almost did get, which I'm kind of quite sad, that one of the great unmade films was before the Burton film, when they're trying to reboot the series. At one point, you had Oliver Stone involved in a project. I think he was producing, possibly, I think, working on the scripts, and they're going to get Philip Noyce in to direct it. And it was basically going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Planet of the Apes film, but basically this version of the Ape Society had modeled themselves an ancient Rome. So it's like a sword and sandals kind of epic with apes and Arnie in it. And I'm so sad we never got that.
I think, to be honest, Planet of the Apes is one of those things where you can literally put it in any genre and it's hilarious. I want to see Planet of the Apes, but like a Vietnam movie.
Oh God!
Like, I want to do that.
That would be dark.
I want to see a full-on Planet of the Apes like horror movie now. It's like Dog Soldiers, but Planet of the Apes kind of thing.
I mean that is potentially quite easy to do, because chimps do famously go for the face.
The Raid.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, yes, the raid for Planet of the Apes, the Raid of the Apes. Yeah, this is what I'm going to see.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get to another question from Liam. Which, I mean, you told me, Sam, y'all have elections coming up. I know we do. This might be serious. Which ape would get your vote in an election in 2024?
Well, I think I'd probably have to go for. Talking about the original films, we have to go for one of the chimps, because they're the scientists. They're the ones who actually know what they're talking about and have some evidence to back it up. They're the experts we should be listening to. Whereas the orangutans are usually the zealots, the politicians and bureaucrats and religious, nut jobs, basically. So I wouldn't trust any of those in positions of power, which obviously how they are in their society. I would much prefer to follow the kind of the more mild mannered, kind of thoughtful kind of primates. So I'd elect Cornelius or Zero. I think, or maybe they go for a joint ticket. Maybe as President First Lady, or vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, you should be able to choose any of them because all the apes are equal. But unfortunately, as we know from the first film, Sam, some apes are more equal than others. So
that's true.
you're on the right lines, and probably but still, it's gonna.
I think the problem with the reboot is the most recent films. If you take Caesar and Cobra, they're both trying to achieve something, but in basically the wrong ways. They're almost like ape kind of Xavier and Magneto. Basically, it's like Cobra's like, they were cruel to me, so I'm going to kill them all. And Caesar was like, oh, give him another chance, And in the process, a lot more of his kind die because he still keeps giving them other chances. So it's like neither of their methodologies are right, and it's like probably somewhere in between them is probably the right way to go. So I wouldn't be able to trust either of them fully.
So what you're saying, Sam, is that Planet of the Apes, not only is it malleable for kind of terms of whatever is going on socially at the moment, it's also malleable for whatever is going on in the filmic zeitgeist. That you had your B movies and things on the space race, like combining for the original in the late 60s and the early 70s. Now you've essentially got the superhero craze, so it's all about superheroes and superpowers, and essentially they are like superhero chimps in a way that they're kind of like,
they've got special gifts,
and then you've got the weird
like
what the hell was going on stuff at the end of the beginning of the century with the Tim Burton one, where there's a lot of films that kind of had some good ideas and some really good cast, but were absolutely awful. We ignore that they existed.
Does it have some good ideas? I don't know.
The good ideas were from the original film.
From Bagsmaster, we have Maurice from the Caesar trilogy, or is it a trilogy or quadrilogy now?
Well, the new ones is a substantial time leap, so I would kind of count at the start of a new series. There are references to the other three, but it's its own thing, really.
Okay, I had no idea.
But Maurice is a cool orangutan from the film. He's like Caesar's right-hand ape, I suppose. His close advisor, his conscience to an extent. He'd probably do a good job.
So I have another question after my answer. If I can't say Mark Wahlberg because technically humans are apes, I guess I'll go with Helena Bonham Carter's character because she's a liberal, better than Trump ape. Whichever analog that is, I guess Thane. So, except Thane may be better. I may prefer Thane to Donald Trump. I would vote for him in America in 2024. My question is, why do only apes and horses exist in the the far off future?
Probably because it was all based on the original, and a lot of the original was done for budgetary reasons.
But they do stick with that, don't they? We don't seem to have many other animals.
Are there any other animals?
A bear turns up in Dawn of Planet of the Apes, attacks Caesar, and in the new one, Kingdom, that the apes are now training eagles to hunt with for this particular tribe.
Ooh, like the Na'vi.
No, they're not. They're training eagles in case there's a volcano that they need to get to very, very quickly.
Yes, but they'll walk there anyway.
Yeah, amazingly, they'll still be stopped by Andy Serkis at some point.
There's also, how it's going. I mean, there have to be bugs and microorganisms like breaking down the dead. If we're thinking logically, but there's no way anybody's thinking logically about any of these movies.
You said bugs and microorganisms as if like the apes are going to get like Martian tripods from War of the Worlds and then get attacked by bacteria and that's going to stop them.
But a key characteristic of apes and monkey-like creatures is picking bugs off of each other, so there definitely have to be bugs, or else what are they doing all day besides, discourse and hating humans?
I've now got a thing in an alternate universe where it's World of the Apes, not Planet of the Apes. You literally do have War of the Worlds of the Apes. Sorry, just say. All right, anyway.
And then we have, what should not have been shocking, we should have probably figured this out, but we were informed by our fellow writer, Fun fact, I have the same first and last name as Charlton Heston's character from the original, from Mr. George Taylor. Go follow him. So I've always had an affinity with the franchise. And his question is, would love to know, where would you take the franchise with the next film? And I didn't see Kingdom, so I'm just going to make something up as I peruse the wiki while Sam answers.
Yeah, so they've sort of they have leapt forward. Basically, it's about 200 years or so after the Andy Serkis trilogy. So humans are pretty much what properly wiped out. Now there's no there's not really any civilized clusters of them anymore. The remaining ones have just gone feral and fled off into the woods, basically. But it's also before they're like domesticated and enslaved. Like in the original film.
So it's the middle bit between the new trilogy and the original.
Basically, yeah. And there's lots of like different ape tribes, different like cultural kind of aspects and kind of well, obviously there's the peace loving ones, and of course there's the more warlike ones, as there always is in these kind of stories. And basically this new one is it's sort of like a coming of age story, for our new lead character Noah. So he's sort of like he's just coming of age. His coming of age ceremony is interrupted when another clan attacks, and he's got to go rescue his friends. Spoiler alert, they win. And it's basically looking ahead to what's next for our tribe, and he has brief interactions with some humans, but they go off and do their own thing. So not sure if they're going to be back, or of course they'll be back, but we don't know in what capacity. It's very open ended, and it's one of my frustrations.
Capacity. No, sorry, keep going.
Though it's very kind of rich and detailed in kind of its aesthetic. It's a gorgeous looking film. It's very tactile. It seems like a lot of setup for I don't really know what yet. It's like I feel like all this time we're spending with these characters and kind of what they're doing in their journey, there's no clear destination yet, so I'm not really sure what they're aiming for. But I think maybe by the time the new one comes out, the next one comes out, it'll be better on a rewatch because of that. But at this stage, it's a bit unclear where they're taking it really.
What are the chances the next two films, because it's obviously going to be a trilogy, because everyone already greenlights trilogies before a first one is out. This is how it works. What are the chances that the second and third one are going to be planned by completely different people and therefore are not going to link up at all? It's not like Star Wars have done anything like that,
Yeah, I mean the Andy Serkis trilogy, different. Matt Reeves only took over on the second one. He did the second and the third, and it was Rupert Wyatt in the first one. I think Rupert Wyatt would have stayed on to helm the whole thing. I think he was interested in it, but it was just scheduling conflicts kind of prevented that. So Matt Reeves has to take over. But I think he kept a consistency of tone and kind of their references to the first film throughout. He does kind of bring it kind of full circle in his trilogy. Again, this one I can't really see what direction they're going yet, but it'll be interesting to find out. I don't know whether a bit like with the Avatar films, we'll discover other ape tribes which have their own kind of gimmicks. It's like this is the Eagle tribe, and then maybe there'll be like I don't know.
The apes are fine until the Fire Nation attacks.
Yeah. I don't know whether each ape tribe in this era of the Planet of the Apes have their own like animal thing going on, or if they all just hunt differently or have different kind of rituals. It'd be interesting to find out.
I think where they're going to go, I want to see two different versions based on that. The first one, if the main guy's called Noah, I want them on, and it's sci-fi, so I want them to obviously build an ark in space. And the second version, you mentioned the different tribes. I want to see Planet of the Apes, but done as West Side Story. Which is like the only ways I can see it going. Yeah, exactly. I want to see them snapping properly.
It would be good. It'd be good if it did like a Warriors type thing, where it's like lots of different, very, very strongly themed ape tribes kind of fighting each other, trying to get from one area to another.
And it's perfect because then you can have them going through the subway. That's the sign that's in beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So you can do that as a reference because it's not like, again, I rewatched the first of the three today for the first time. There's now four, isn't there? The new ones today for the first time, alongside I also rewatched the original, and it's you know how everyone goes, oh my god, these legacy sequels, all they do is just shoehorn in fan service from the original. It's not like Rise of the Planet of the Apes didn't do that at all. It's like you're there going, it's like, oh, Tom Felton, you're so good, but all you're now reduced to is being a dick and quoting the original. Like that's it. That's your entire job. You get the get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape. You get the it's a madhouse line. It's like, come on. Is this what we're reduced to now?
Yeah, what are the odds someone is saying that like thousands of years in the future also?
Yeah, it actually turns out that Charlton Heston isn't the first person to say it. He's quoting Draco Malfoy. That's the point, you know.
I mean, I think that aspect didn't annoy so much because I think his get your dirty paws off me, sorry, your filthy paws off me, damn dirty ape, is immediately undercut by Caesar's first word, which I think is a great moment. You know, it's all in service to that point.
Let's don't spoil all this because we're gonna go in depth. I think my next movie. My next movie in the series that I haven't seen, I think, so it talks about the satellites that they're reactivating. I would like to see XXX3, where they're dropping the satellites onto the monkeys as a weapon, which leads to more war and extermination.
Monkey.
Oh, yeah. Or just Vin Diesel is in the humans.
Yeah, I mean, you know how we keep having that question that if it was a Muppets movie, who would you have as the only human, and the rest of it is Muppets? I would have Planet of the Apes done with Muppets, and Vin Diesel is the only human in a Planet of the Apes Santa Cage 3.
I think Planet of the Apes, you get one Muppet and everyone else is an ape.
Okay.
So would Charlton Heston be the Muppet?
Yes.
But not Kermit. I'd have it just like Charlton Heston. It's just somebody like Gonzo, just for randomness. Either that, or just like they're all like.
I think it's gonna be all American. I think it's gonna be Sam the Eagle. Sam the Eagle as George Taylor.
Big Bird, just random.
Yeah. Sorry. My one last question before we get to it, guys. Why do apes speak English thousands of years in the future?
Because they're in America. Can you imagine America giving away to any other language?
But languages evolve. It doesn't matter where you are.
I mean, actually, I've just thought of one thing I'd like to see next. In all these Apes films, so in over 50 years of movie history and 10 movies, we've never seen apes outside the US. They're all on the North Continent, kind of the North American kind of landmass. We know they spread around the world because there's a graphic in one of the Andy Serkis films where the virus kind of spreads across the world.
It's the end of the first one. I just watched it.
The people die off and the apes become intelligent. So we know it happens around the world, but we've never been to those other places and seen how it differs. So maybe the next one could be like Odyssey of the Planet of the Apes. They all get on an ark maybe and sail across the Atlantic.
No. You need a Japanese one, Bushido of the Planet of the Apes. Like Planet of the Apes done by Kurosawa.
Yeah.
I think that relates to Bags Master's Apocalypse Now suggestion too.
No.
Yes.
Jangathan Unchained.
So then at that point, maybe we'd find out, presume the apes would speak whatever language the people spoke on whatever landmass they evolved at. Possibly.
So they would speak Japanese. Got it. So
wow.
I guess now let's get into the movies. Kieran, you did the original?
I rewatched it at least. Yeah.
Okay. Sam, you're doing Rise?
I'm
cool.
doing Rise, yeah.
Okay. We should have set that up beforehand, but Kieran, go.
Yeah. Go and try and keep a brief summary of it down to a minimum, because otherwise this will go on for 5 hours. So based on the novel by Pierre Boulle, I believe, French, so forgive me for butchering it, who I also didn't realize also wrote Bridge over the River Kwai, so there we go. In 1963, got adapted for the 68 version. Lots of changes made along the way, and one of the major people doing the script revisions for it was Rod Serling, who eventually made Twilight Zone, which is why there is an episode of Twilight Zone that is essentially Planet of the Apes without any apes in 25 minutes, where they fly off to a different planet, seem to land on a distant planet, they run out of water, So they essentially kill each other to try and survive. And right after like the last guy's alive, a bit like The Mist, essentially he realizes that, oh, I'm in California the entire time.
I'm afraid I
think
can't
it's
do that,
California,
Dave.
something like that. Yeah. A bit like The Mist, where he kills each other and the army comes in like 2 seconds after. And it was also Rod Serling that put in the original twist. Are we going to mention the twist? I think at this point, if you don't know the twist,
statute of limitations has passed on this one, I think.
Yeah, the statute of limitations. Which that was Rod Serling's idea. Apparently, in the original novel, they kind of get in the ship, fly back home, and when they get back to Paris, the Eiffel Tower and the airport looks fine, but when they get off their spaceship, they're arrested by two gorillas. They manage to escape and put it in a thing.
Yeah, which is basically the twist that Tim Burton put back into his version, though not more nonsensically.
Yeah, which it's a great image of having the bad guy. I'll let Jacob talk it. It's a great kind of image, but makes no sense in any way, shape, or form, because that implies much more time travel than it started with.
So, I mean, look, let's talk about the Statue of Liberty real fast. It's on an island, right, in New York. And so when we see it at the end of the movie, it's just like on this rock formation. Who knows where? There was a nuclear war? So, like, why has the structure of Manhattan completely changed? Like, I don't know. It made very little sense.
That the Statue of Liberty can move, even if it's just parts of it, as we've seen in Cloverfield. So there is nothing to stop people, I don't know, another country trying to nick it. Maybe it's like Danger 5.
I think France does have one.
Yeah, how far in the future is it? Is about 4,000 years, something like that? For
for that one,
You're meant to know.
Yeah, for that one, yeah.
I do like the shot though, where it's framed within her the spikes on her head. Although there's 7 of them, so it's weird to put 2 in the middle, and then also. Like immediately, if you're American, at least you could tell. Like, whoa, oh my God, I know exactly what he's looking at. I know y'all have seen it. I don't know exactly. I don't know if I would recognize like British monuments, even though I know what they are. If you showed them from behind.
You might do like just about if it was something like Stonehenge, and that's about it. You know, you might do Stonehenge, Big Ben,
Red Bus,
a Red Bus, and. Yeah, because even something like the London Eye, it could also be the Singapore Flyer. So
yeah. I think in terms of our distinct landmarks, you'd probably go for Big Ben if you're doing like a UK equivalent, wouldn't you?
Or Tower Bridge maybe.
Yeah.
Which to me, I mean, I might just think those are buildings because I'm stupid and undereducated. So
to be honest, I think probably Stonehenge is the easiest you'd get. You'd get the kind of 3 blocks there. And you go, okay, it's Stonehenge.
And it would relate to the primitive past, colliding with the primitive future. No.
But we also know that there is a massive box underneath Stonehenge, don't we, Sam? That's there too.
Yes. That holds the most evil creature in the universe.
Matt Smith. Anyway, not that we're going to mention the Doctor Who thing again. The fact that Doctor Who's ripped off Beneath the Planet to the Apes twice. But that's besides the point. We'll move on from that fact. So Rod Serling actually put the original twist in, and there are loads of other revisions, but the twist was kept in. And as soon as you kind of realize Rod Serling put in the twist, he's the Twilight Zone guy, known for twists. He's the original Shyamalan. You kind of go, this makes 100% sense, I watched this again and only found this out like an hour and a half ago, just doing some research. Like, oh, Rod Serling did. Okay, now everything makes sense completely. Like everything falls into place. Aside from kind of that bit, not that much. He's like inherently different to the novel, as far as I can tell. I haven't read it. I know, shocking. The writing student hasn't read a book. But everything else is roughly in place. And the thing with the first one is that although it's kind of done in 68, it still looks gorgeous. The prosthetics and the makeup is still really good. The wides as they're exploring this world they've landed on are
really
amazing.
really good choice of like landscapes and kind of how they're shot and everything.
Yeah, and the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. It looks glorious. It feels like a proper epic Western. It feels like Lawrence of Arabia style kind of, even though obviously it was shot in the 30-mile radius of Hollywood. I think because they would have done. And you know, it's got all the. I'm meant to be talking about this. I have no idea what I'm actually going to say at this point. Like, it's because
what's the story?
Have we not worked out the story by now?
I mean, we know it, but you know, for the sake of
so
something
there's a
to say.
spaceship that goes into the future because they can. I think there's probably a reason why scientific exploration is normally the backstory for any B movie.
They think they're heading towards an alien world. That they know time's gone a bit weird, so they've gone much far into the future than they intended. But they think they're heading for an alien world. And they land on said alien world.
And there's time dilation, you know, hyperspace, blah blah.
They
do a bit of cryogen stuff.
There's 4 of them, but the female scientist dies en route. There's a leak in her capsule.
Of course.
So she looks like a mummy when they wake up.
Well, I mean, it's really easy to do that because 1, that means you can explain the timey-wimey stuff going on, and 2, it means you don't have to have 4 people wandering around. You cut down one of your actors, essentially. So you don't have to pay them to be on set.
Well, but you could pay the woman 70 cents on the dollar, and back in the 60s, probably less. So. You know.
I mean, today you can pay them less if they're female. Oh, should I not be saying this?
I'm not advocating for it. To be clear,
no, I'm not saying that. No, but I'm saying this is what they do.
It's the fact of life.
Yeah. This is what modern Hollywood does. If you want to bring down the cost of your film, you get more female actresses in.
This
is an attack on the Hollywood system. This is not an advocation for it.
Ironic.
But while exploring this supposedly alien planet, they bump into a society of intelligent apes who have enslaved much less intelligent humans.
And that chase scene is really good, where they're like hunting them down. It's very. So I watched this movie through clips. I didn't watch the whole thing, but one of the first clips is that chase. And like it is dramatic. It's well done. It reminds me of Star Wars. Like that's the big thing that stood out to me, which goes along with like the Kurosawa and Lawrence of Arabia type cinematography.
I mean, apart from like the way it's filmed and like the groundbreaking kind of makeup effects and stuff like that, does this feel like a little bit of a throwback? It still feels quite pulpy, doesn't it? Like in terms of like like these kind of explorers, on a rocky world, and just why are we out here to discover things, because we don't know enough,
I mean, the original novel was written in 63, and this is the age of Asimov, Heinlein, and Clarke. It's the age of the big 3. Philip K. Dick is writing stuff, but it's not massively around then. It's the era of the pulps.
Frank Herbert just coming in a couple of years,
so even he hasn't really got there yet. Sword and Sorcery is still kicking around a bit. So
guys, you're leaving out L. Ron Hubbard, the master.
Oh yeah, of course.
I will put my hand up. I've never read a single word by Hubbard. It's one of those ones that I keep seeing in like the secondhand book shops, and I should go for it, and it's like book 5.
When people talk about Dickens being paid by the word.
He was definitely around as well.
But in terms of kind of pulp sci-fi, the big 3 are referred to as Clarke, Asimov, and Heinlein, and they are all space exploration, going out there because we can, and space colonies and stuff like that. So even if it's not deliberately inspired by that, that's the stuff at the time, and that's what sci-fi is going to be. All the kind of Corman B movies from the 50s and the 60s are stuff like Planet X and Space Women from Venus and stuff like that, and Battleship Outer Space, and that's what's just going on. So even if you're not deliberately setting out to do that, that's what's in the zeitgeist. Even if you're not, if you write an action movie now, even if you're not setting out to make one in the style of something like Mission Impossible or John Wick or even the superhero movies, your action sequences, because that's just what's going around, that's what's going to go into the head and come out at the page, unless you deliberately try and go elsewhere. You just write something naturally. You get influenced by what's around you, what's in the zeitgeist. So it is pulpy and it is camp to some extent, but that
one aspect of like those, I mean, Herbert is the one that jumps to mind, especially because I haven't read the other three as much or at all, depending on the writer. But the society like is a pretty big focus in these movies. So what is Apes society like in 4,000 years in the future in this movie?
Well, it's significantly downgraded from the book for budgetary reasons. So apparently in the book they're all kind of smoking cigars and it's essentially us. In the original film it's gone back.
Wait, they didn't have the budget for cigars?
Well, it was just the way it was set up is it's just like the society that they got was a lot more advanced.
Yeah. I know that the budget
Apeconda.
for cigars. I know there's budget for cigars because Charlton Heston is smoking one in the opening scene on his spaceship, which always makes
that was an example of the kind of thing that would be going on. So yeah,
God, they were smoking on airplanes back then, so like it fits.
So yeah, it was just reduced for.
He was smoking on set, and they were like, "I'm not putting this out." Okay, Charlton Heston.
A bit like Robert Downey Jr. with his snacks in. So the wiki version shows the apes wear gloves instead of shoes on their prehensile feet. The apes smoke tobacco, photograph the hunting trophies, drink through straws, and appear utterly civilized. So it kind of would have been slightly, if not, like massively more budget. You're going to have to put them in normal housing, whereas this you can just put them in kind of cave kind of structures.
And the kind of clothes they wear, obviously, eyes and foot, they basically just do makeup on the hands and the face, aren't you, really? Because, the rest of the body is covered by the costume. I did notice this time, though, nice little detail. They're wearing shoes, but then there's a couple of shots of the guard shoes, and the shoes are kind of the toes separated, so it's like
gloves.
Basically, so that's a nice little detail.
Are they shoes or are they gloves at that point?
Well, obviously.
Glues.
Yeah, they probably are gloves, but practically speaking, the way they're made on the film, they're
glandals. No, that's really not good.
Or maybe ape gloves are actually shoes, since they use their four-leg arm, whatever, for climbing and running.
Are they exactly the same, the top and bottom? Oh, instead of you get me your left and right like shoes or something like that. Oh, I got my front gloves and my back gloves.
I got my top shoes on my bottom.
The equivalent of wearing a t-shirt back to front. So Charlton Heston gets society eventually, and he can't speak initially because he gets shot in the neck, which is how he gets kind of caught up there, and people are like, oh my god, it's like he's trying to talk, and they call him Bright Eyes, which is what they eventually call Caesar's mother initially in the first of the reboots. So he goes around, eventually manages to escape and gets his voice back, which is where the "get your filthy paws off me, you damn dirty ape" line comes from, and it's a big thing of, oh, he can talk.
Oh, that scene is so silly, where the apes like repel to pull him up in the net, and then also none of them have their hands on him, which is my main takeaway from that scene. He was just inside of a net.
You're quibbling over the very tiny specifics of it. Oh, yeah, of course. That's my
Get me out of this net, you damn dirty ape. Maybe would have worked a little more precisely.
There's just no pleasing some people. It's ridiculous. You can write the net. Actually, no, because you'll get paid for that. I'm not saying don't get paid. But
I'll write it. I'll put it in the musical. I'll make a reference to it where they say the line and then they go,
I haven't got my hands anywhere near you.
Exactly.
They're doing jazz hands.
Oh, and the character that says that will be Bright Eyes.
So, Charlton Heston essentially then is trying to prove that he is kind of educated and from another planet, and the apes don't believe him. And they're like, well, all our sacred texts say that man is, of a lower species. You could be a mutation, but you're still of a lower species. This is what essentially God has ordained. Therefore, you can't be.
which one of the master strokes of kind of how they explain how society works. It's like the arrogance of like the dominant kind of species. It's like presuming everything must have always been how we are, because we're here, and it's like, it's like one step removed from like, so sex of the population insisting that society's got worse because immigration's gone up, and there was never any immigration hundreds of years ago when clearly there was. It's like this. It's this speak from this point of authority. It's like, well, because this text that we put all our faith into says so, then that's what we're going to do. It's like,
well, and what are the texts and legends in that first movie?
It's essentially versions of the Bible. They're like 8 versions of the Bible.
Yeah, they're definitely like Judeo-Christian kind of stories, but with different names. But about prophets, and
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Simeon.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. They're fun enough. We never get a full explanation because the one time we would get it. The one time I would get it is with Taylor's trial, and he's like lambasted for not knowing kind of these stories, and for not being able to state like the words of their constitution and like their their set beliefs, so
yeah. And Jacob, of course, it's going to be a Judeo-Christian version of religion. It's a US production.
Sure.
You really expect them to have a version of the Hindu gods? Like, why would they do that?
Well, I think the Hindus at least have an ape god.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Is there ape Jesus in the movie? Like we see a.
It's just called Rhesus instead of Jesus.
Oh my God! Yes. Except that portrait where the old lady like messed up, that exists in the future, so that's probably where they got their Jesus from.
Yeah. So eventually, Charlton Heston manages to escape and gets taken with 2 of the kind of scientists who believe that man might be able to be domesticated, and they escort him to the Forbidden Zone, where they're going to. One of them was doing some excavations beforehand that were kind of shut down because he found some evidence that might contradict the scrolls, and they went, in which case we're just going to shut you down. This doesn't exist, obviously. Never say anyone. And they go back there, and they again try and convince the main orangutan guy. What's the orangutan? The main one called?
Zeus.
Zeus, that's the one that I think should be Zeus. I've rewatched it and I've forgotten his name. And it was like Zeus. It was like, is that meant to be Zeus, like a god kind of thing? No, it's Zeus. And he essentially is kind of one of the main politicians. He's kind of the main advocate for scientific advancement, but also defending the faith.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's the great irony, isn't it? Yeah, he's one of the main political things, but he's also head of the scientific division and head of the church, essentially. Yeah. So it's like
now that I think about it, he reminds me of name of it in Brave New World. Is it Mustafa Ford? The kind of main guy that eventually John the Savage gets confronted with, and they have a big tete-a-tete. And essentially, it's his job to maintain the system as it is. And John the Savage is like, well, what about kind of Shakespeare and things like that? These things are great emotion. And it's like, yeah, but the trouble is that involves emotion. As soon as you do that, people get worked up. As soon as you get people worked up, it disrupts the system. And he goes, he's the one that goes, we allow scientific advancement, but only as much as we can allow it to advance. If you go too far, we'll ship you off to Iceland, where you kind of be forgotten about. And he kind of reminds me of that, because essentially it later turns out that he knew and has known more than he said, but for the sake of the kind of status quo of the society they've got, he has to essentially destroy evidence that might contradict things, which actually makes him, I think, a more complex character than a lot of people might give him credit for. That he isn't there, like, for a lot of he is kind of the antagonist. And I think he probably would be classified as the main antagonist of the film. But at the same time, he's not, because he does have a job to do, which is to make sure that his kind of town, city, whatever, doesn't just fall apart because everyone's kind of beliefs and ideologies change. And so for that, he has to go against scientific advancement to try and keep it, because the entire upheaval would change. It's essentially like somebody going, I believe in the origin of species, but I'm going to have to not publish it because of what might happen as a consequence. And it's a really interesting thing that happens there. Anyway, it gets tied to a tree. Charlton Heston goes on, and he finds out that they haven't landed on an alien planet after all. They've landed on their own world, thousands of years in the future. When he sees the Statue of Liberty, and he's in the sand, going, "You blew it up! Damn you all to hell, you maniacs!" In
A lot
one
more
of the best
swearing than I expected, but yeah, really good.
Yeah, in one of the best endings ever put to film.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine being there first time around, obviously not expecting it, and just having that,
Yeah.
sprung upon you? That has to be up there, doesn't it? With one of the great moments.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah,
guys,
and,
the father of all apes in the Judeo-Christian religion is Abraham.
Is that in the Tim Burton one, or
No, that's in the Bible. It's a pun.
that's in the Jacob Davis version?
Yes.
Yeah. The trouble I find now with the original is that ending now is so iconic that you can't hide it. Like, it's on my DVD cover. Like, what's the point of that? Like, this is ridiculous. That's like having like John Kramer rising up on the floor on your Saw cover. Like, no.
Or like Charles Foster Kane, posing on the cover holding a sledge,
Oh, or if on The Sixth Sense, there's the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, what he said. Either that or something like I don't know, Fight Club, where you do a poster like Face Off.
Yeah,
like that would be great.
As near to giving it away as you could do.
That should be the Criterion cover, actually.
What, a Face Off version, but with that?
Yeah, Tyler Durden and Ed Norton.
Or
Jack. There we go.
Yeah, or just like a Shyamalan thing, but like, imagine is it The Village? Imagine that, but with a car on the cover, like.
So, are we gonna keep spoiling movies, or do we have more on
Snape kills,
Planet of the Apes, 1968?
Yeah, I have not given any spoilers. I hinted at. Yeah, so it's a ridiculously good movie. I just hate the fact that now that ending is so well known that you can't kind of get away with it. And I think as soon as you think Planet of the Apes, that's kind of almost the first thing you think of.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous at a certain point. Just the one shot, that one wide, the final shot, which is possibly one of the greatest final like shots in history, I think.
And it's so bleak just to kind of phase out on that. That's your ending. There's no kind of relief for the audience. It's like,
and and the sound of the waves even kind of crosses over into the credits.
Because Jerry Goldsmith's like amazing score. It's one of the few times where it just completely cuts out. There's normally some music in the background, but they go for the silence, just the sound of the waves. It's really effective.
Yeah, and it's a really bleak and really depressing ending, but it really works because it is a kind of depressing story that we did this to ourselves. So and it was in the 60s. It was in the height of the Cold War. It was a Cold War metaphor. Like a lot of stuff was around then, but this one just happened to have very good acting, very good special effects, very good music, and an awful lot more budget than all the other black and white stuff had.
Yeah, and it was like a big budget sci-fi, but kind of told in like a really kind of these massive ideas about like the world we lived in at the time, but told in like a really kind of entertaining, kind of crowd pleasing, engaging way.
Yeah.
And then it had several sequels, which we are going to skip over.
Yeah.
Until Sam obviously gets to them.
I mean, Sam, do any of them come back?
So I think we're gonna because we're gonna be leaping forward in time without it. I think I will.
Sam, do what you did for Godzilla for those 4 sequels very, very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So Planet of the Apes was 68. Then you had Beneath the Planet of the Apes in 1970. Charlton Heston didn't particularly want to come back, but he did agree to to shoot a cameo as long as they killed off his character. So basically, it's the story of another kind of astronaut goes looking for Taylor and discovers all the humans aren't just the kind of a slave race in service to the apes, but there's actually a society a partial society that retreated underground and were mutated by nuclear radiation. So they're sort of these kind of borderline psychic mutants living underground who worship a
Very
nuclear
Philip K.
bomb.
Dick.
Yeah, worship a nuclear bomb as a god. And I can't in all good conscience say it's good, but it's not unfun. It's just a bit naff, but it's kind of
It's an interesting
entertaining.
idea that's not executed
Yeah,
very well,
yeah, and again
from what I remember.
they cut the budget to 3.4 million from hang on, what was the original?
Over 5, I
Uh,
think.
yeah, from nearly 6 million. It's basically they almost have half the budget for the first sequel. So that's Beneath the Planet of the Apes, not overly successful, but yeah,
Yeah,
Taylor
the
goes
ending of that one,
yeah. That one it seems pretty definitive because the bomb goes off.
and the
I was gonna
world
think he
explodes.
saw the Roman Colosseum or something.
Yeah.
No.
No, the hint for that one is he goes underground and sees a subway sign.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it's from Earth. Oh,
Yeah. So a year later, you have Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which was they basically did the Star Trek Voyage Home before Star Trek the Voyage Home came out. Basically, it's the same premise. So characters traveling back in time to contemporary of the era kind of Earth. So that's Cornelius and Zero, played again by Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter. And basically, they travel back to present day. Is it San Francisco again? Like,
probably.
I need to double check.
I'll double check with you. Live research,
Oh,
guys.
no, it's Los Angeles. Sorry, yeah, I'm getting mixed up with Star Trek. Yeah,
That's
yes,
Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
yes. So they make it back to the 70s New York, basically, and become a sensation. They become like this, almost like a celebrity couple. Basically, people are fascinated by them, and kind of how just this idea that these intelligent apes, they become like a real sensation of the age.
They
But
have
the
an
standout scene,
appreciation for them.
they end up making a big speech to the United Nations, about equality and kind of how humanity basically needs to watch themselves, before they destroy themselves, and how they need to think about how they're treating the natural world and everyone in it, basically.
That is
So
hilarious.
it's probably my favorite of the originals. Kind of almost level with the original film for me, because it's got that satirical edge. It's really funny, but it's kind of
So you're saying it's
and
Planet of the Apes does Day the Earth Stood Still?
yeah, it's a bit like that, basically. Yeah, I mean, it's a big idea thing, but basically they're much limited budget. Again, this costs $1 million less again than the last one. So they said, all right, we won't do our sci-fi environments. We'll just shoot it in actual LA and just have the makeup do the job.
Oh my god.
So
Apes talking at the UN is my new favorite
yeah,
image.
yeah.
I need to go watch that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, and I would say honestly, before Andy Serkis joined the franchise, like Roddy McDowall was the franchise MVP. Is so good as Cornelius, and kind of brings across so much, through that thick makeup. Is just just how he can act most of his eyes and his mouth. It's incredible. Following that, you had again another year later, you had Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Which I think was probably cheaper again. Yep, probably again about $1 million less than the last one. And this is basically them trying to do a revolution movie, but on a really tight budget. So it's Cornelius' son called Caesar, and yeah, there will be references to that going forward in the franchise. Who basically starts again certain contemporary ish the US, maybe slightly kind of more towards like dystopian kind of future, but not too far in the future. And basically
The far off future of 2024.
I think it's set like 10 years later or something. But yeah, basically Caesar starts the revolution and kind of inspires his other apes to kind of fight back against this police state in the US, basically. It's quite fun. It's again they're a bit limited about what they can do with the budget, but it kind of works well enough. It's for their limitations, it's done pretty well, I suppose. And again, they bring a lot more kind of commentary on like the civil rights movement, things like that into it. So, some quite blatant like race allegory in it, which kind of works.
Which,
and then
by the way, that's like 15 years after the civil rights movement. So way to stay socially relevant.
Yeah. But yeah, there's stuff about like get a kind of street gangs and kind of stuff like police brutality and stuff like that. So it kind of works, even if the metaphors get slightly outdated. And then again, another year later, you had Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which was their misguided attempt to do a war movie on a budget of about
1.7 million.
1.7 million. So again, it was not quite the same budget cut between installments as the last one, but still less.
It's a third of the original. Like it's
yeah.
They're holding up little soldier figurines for the actions.
Yeah. And this just, I think this is easily the well, I was going to say it's the weakest. I mean, Beneath is pretty bad as well, but at least that's entertaining. This is just quite dull, if I'm honest. And yeah, the budget doesn't do enough. They can't afford enough people in good enough ape makeup basically to make it convincing. And the battle at the end is pretty uninspiring. Let's put it that way.
Sam, what year was that?
That was 73.
Okay, and that's the last one.
Yeah, of the original runs. Basically, they did one a year after the original.
Okay,
and just kept slashing the budget and usually making up for it with the ideas they're bringing forward, but not with Battle. I would say that they definitely dropped the ball there, and it kind of it was a bit tired by then, the franchise, and I think they decided to rest it for a bit. Apart from the TV show and the animated series, they didn't really revisit this for another 25 years or so.
In that case, I apologize to the filmmakers. They were only about 8 years late or so on the social relevance. But that leads into the period where, of course, it's time to start remaking. So, in the 80s, they're trying. The 90s, they're trying. They're attaching Sam Raimi and James Cameron. And what's the hottest name in Christopher Columbus? We're putting everybody on Chris Columbus. He doesn't go by Christopher. And they're doing all that. All these producers, all these scripts with crazy ideas. And finally, they have a script. They get Tim Burton, and they give him no time to make the movie. He started filming in like April 2001, or sorry, he started in November 2001, ended in April 2001 for the very strict release date of July 2001. And so it's actually, I don't think that bad for a movie that had that compressed of a creation time. But man, is there some hilarious things in this movie. It is so funny. First of all, because it stars Mark Wahlberg. He's coming off Dirk Diggler and Boogie Nights, and they're like, you know what you should do? Instead of Ocean's 11, where he was going to play the Matt Damon role, you should be in Planet of the Apes. And naturally, he's going to take it. It's a Tim Burton movie. It's a premier franchise. He probably loves that. Oh, yeah, I want to get that Charlton Heston role.
I'll tell you what the actual reason was. The budget for the film was 100 mil. And if you're the star of the movie with 100 mil, in the nicest way, you take it for the paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
And you can't blame him.
No.
People was like, oh, he just took it for the money. It's like the amount he's going to be offered is, let's be honest, at minimum $1 million.
Mark Wahlberg.
I have no idea how much he was offered, but yeah.
Mark Wahlberg has no idea if he's going to lead a franchise film ever again in 2001. I mean, yeah, I think it was a good bet at the very moment that he took it, but obviously hindsight would have been better if he did Ocean's 11 there.
I mean, who would have guessed 15 years later he'd be Cade Yeager, the new lead of the Transformers movie?
Oh, it's a good thing.
By the way, I've just Googled. Apparently, and I'm, this is obviously with some caveats. Apparently, Mark Wahlberg's salary for the 2001 Planet of the Apes was around $8 million.
Yes.
Whoa.
That's why he took it on. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Oh, and yeah, then he got to make Entourage and stuff. So good for Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if he was over his racism by this point, but I do know that this is around the time that he would have stormed that cockpit if he were on those planes in 9/11. Almost his exact words. So Mark Wahlberg's a crazy person. He's starring in this movie, which is hilarious. I wonder how audiences felt about it at the time, but he's an attractive young dude playing a scientist, which is hilarious. Tim Roth is the main bad guy ape. General dude. Helena Bonham Carter is the soft, liberal female ape. She's a very sexy ape. Like, they're obviously going for hot ape.
She's an uncomfortably sexy ape, just like we talked about.
Not in a good way.
Sexy foxes in animated Robin Hood the other week.
Lola Bunny is an attractive bunny. Helena Bonham Carter, not an attractive ape. But I do think she probably has the best ape role in terms of acting like an ape. Paul Giamatti's in it. Chris Christopherson plays a human.
My favorite Paul Giamatti on Planet of the Apes trivia is his favorite. It's still to this day his favorite role ever. He couldn't wait to get made up as an orangutan and just overacts and his little heart out. He loved it.
I don't like his overacting. He's just constantly doing eye movements and exaggerated faces, and it's so stupid. And then also making cameos, Charlton Heston as Tim Roth's dad. He dies. His name is Zaius or whatever. But he's a chimp, not an orangutan. Yes. You have to have the nods in there. And then Linda Harrison is the woman in the cart. I don't know who that is.
Yeah. So she was Nova in the original film. So she obviously plays another woman in this version. Yeah.
Okay, well there you go. But the movie is about Mark Wahlberg. At the beginning, he's on this space station in the far off year of 2029. Man, guys, do you think we'll have space stations 5 years from now? I'm pretty sure the ISS is decommissioned. So it's weird what we thought 2029 was going to be like just in 2001. And Mark Wahlberg and his team, they are training monkeys for space flight.
Take a drink.
It's so, well, yeah, sorry. Training apes for space flight. And they're so adorable. He's holding hands with his little chimp buddy, whose name is, I can't remember it. It's obviously some Greek name. It's the Greek guy who was really down for Athens and would really help develop it. He was a senator or something.
That could be half of them.
It could be, but I mean, not the philosophers. I'm pretty sure he was just a politician. Although I suppose he had a philosophy.
Pericles.
Yes.
Pericles,
there you go. So that is his little ape pal, his chimp pal, and so there's this electromagnetic storm, a disturbance in the force or something. I don't know. So they're like, I'm going to say it, don't drink. Monkey, go get in the ship and fly into this storm. And so he does. He gets into it. And he flies off into it. And it's so sad. He's such an adorable little chimpanzee. And Mark Wahlberg's like, oh, I'm going after the chimp. I got to go get in the car. And I got to go after my little buddy. I'm not going to leave him all alone out in space. And so he gets into his spaceship and he leaves. It's very surreptitious. You think there would be more I don't know, more people watching, more alerts. But nope, he's off into space.
Like Rogue One had more trouble leaving.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so him and the chimp buddy, they get sucked into warp wormholes. I don't know. Mark Wahlberg flies.
It's a pothole, yeah.
Yeah, it's very Nolan. He flies into the ground. He crashes in Yoda's swamp, except it's a lot brighter. And then suddenly there are all these people running, and he's like, "Oh, we're running. All right, I'm gonna run with you." And so they're all running, and then there are these apes coming down from the tree. They were coming from the trees, man, grabbing him and putting him into a cart, and then they're gonna go. So the way ape society is set up, we find out it's sort of like medieval, like I mentioned earlier. They wear robes, like it's kind of fantasy. It's more fantasy than it is a specific time period. You know, they're wearing robes, they're wearing armor, they're wearing like these stupid helmet-looking things that look like the hats that the Nemoidians wear in Phantom Menace. This reminded me a lot of Phantom Menace. I wonder how much inspiration there was to have like just stupid stuff in there that nobody needs to know about. Although the original also has the politics and stuff.
But I suppose they're both like some of the last big kind of genre movies that were still more or less done. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of CG, but there's still a lot of makeup and a lot of extras in big kind of elaborate costumes and stuff as well. So it's kind of it's still on the verge of having to do it proper, you know, kind of in camera.
And they had to because they didn't have time for the CGI in 3 months. So his name is Leo. That's Mark Wahlberg's name is Leo, and he's taken into Ape Town, which is not in South Africa. He's taken there, and he has to like get rescued by Helena Bonham Carter's ape, who buys him and some other people as slaves and takes them back to her house. It's a lot like reverse Phantom Menace. Instead of going to a slave's house, those slaves get taken to her house because they're unfamiliar with the territory. Yeah. And her dad is an orangutan senator, I think. And no, he's a chimp. That would be weird because she's a chimp. By the way, it's weird how when apes become more person-like, they grow hair and start styling it, and they grow beards and style it. Why don't apes have those now? I'm pretty sure gorillas don't have beards. Like, they have fur, but I'm pretty sure they don't have beards like we have. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know anything about apes. But I'm picturing...
I mean, like General Thade, they give him like a proper evil, like Dracula, like widow's peak, don't they? Like a goatee. Like,
yes.
Just, like, could this be any more obviously the bad guy?
Yeah, he looks like an evil wizard, very triangular.
He could be more obviously the bad guy. Everyone else could be dressed in white. He could be dressed in black.
There you go.
You could have a black Stetson.
Now there is no stratified ape society other than like there is a hierarchy, but it's not based on your race or species. I don't know, whichever kind of ape you are.
If you're a monkey or not.
Yeah. Because it was very in the originals. It was very much like a caste system. So if you're a chimp, you're a scientist. If you're an orangutan, you're a politician, and if you're a gorilla, you're a soldier. That's how it is.
This is more like. This is more like human races, right? Where there's just there are gorillas, there are orangutans, there are chimps.
Doing all kinds of jobs.
Yeah, and the leader happens to be a chimpanzee. Who knows what the past was like? He has strong gorilla buddies, but then there's a gorilla slave who had a disagreement with the Thane, and so he became a house ape. Oh gosh, I should not have said that. That has been some connotations. Yes. Well, that's the thing. With this movie, there's very much racial connotations to it. There's the environmental connotations to it. But what's weird is all of the humans are white people. And so it's like, white people, imagine if you were slaves. Wouldn't that be terrible? And it's like, that's the only way we can understand it is if other white people are in a precarious situation. Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. What if we had it bad?
It's almost like we've got a story set in the future where kind of the white ones have evolved to be kind of vaguely harmless, and everyone else has obviously evolved into kind of the aggressors. I wonder if H.G. Wells did something very similar back in the day, you know.
Well, and that's, because this is, I'm pretty sure Rodney King reference in this, because I think somebody says, can't we all just get along or something? And like, that gives it really weird, unintended undertones where like, are the apes like a metaphor for non-white people? I don't think, obviously they didn't mean that, but is that something that kind of emerges because of like, the completely white human cast, and then also the just the historical in America comparing black people to apes and monkeys. Like, that's something people did, and so it creates that uncomfortable connotation. So
what you're saying is that Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes is actually unconsciously a Planet of the Apes parallel to the Noughts and Crosses books.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't think they thought any of the social commentary through beyond racism bad and environmentalism good. Do not destroy the planet. There's a part where Mark Wahlberg says, "Yeah, we burned down all the forests, so now there aren't any forests on our planet." And this is only hundreds of years in the future, by the way. So how are all the forests on Earth? I don't know. I don't know how long it takes to grow forests, but I would assume a long time.
Considering the amount of changes it looks like the ending had as well, I don't think they thought that far through. Apparently, the ending at one point, they're originally going to go back in the spaceship
We'll get to the ending, Kieran. Don't worry. It is, how it's really, really good in the first one? It's the opposite.
Not in the remake.
Oh, I mean, they tried to make it as epic. But like I said, we will get there. Mark Wahlberg. By the way, the house that they're in, it looks very much like a Tatooine Star Wars house. So there's some kind of unconscious sharing going on, I think, by this point as well. It does, it looks like the original too, like the interior of homes. It maintains that. But if you're just a person who hasn't really seen that movie, it's Star Wars. Yeah. And so there's this dinner scene where all of the highfalutin apes are sitting down and they're talking about these high-minded ideas. And one of them says, "Yes, we tried giving them money, but then it just became a welfare state." Because, the ape senators are corrupt and evil, much like, Reagan economics. Which, that just adds, if you know the history of movies and you've seen Birth of a Nation, they're creating what would happen if the other people were in charge? Well, they would be evil and inconsiderate to the humans, to the white people, which, Sam, do you remember there being any non-white humans in this movie?
No. And the only prominent black actor I can think of is Michael Clark Duncan, who plays a gorilla.
Yes, there is one on the spaceship at the beginning. That's the only black human actor I can think of.
I was going to say, and there's one, again, I don't know the name in the original, that goes along with Charlton Heston and everyone else.
One of the others, survivors,
and then gets killed and stuffed and turned into a history exhibit.
Yeah. I wish I could have seen that scene because that sounded really cool when I read about it. But in this movie, Mark Wahlberg goes to his crash site, swims down to his spaceship, gets his emergency gun ration because he's American. And so it's like a big explodey gun. It shoots rockets. And so the apes are like, oh no. And they run away. But then Helena Bonham Carter breaks the gun, and she's like, no guns. And then Thane, he's with his dad. He goes to Charlton Heston, and he's like, "Dad, I gotta stop these humans. This one is different from all the others. He is the chosen one or something. I don't know. He may be on a hero's journey of sorts." And he's like, "Yeah, so son, I'm dying. Go over there. You see that? Break that heart open." And he does. This heart only exists in the credits, which it's a very surreal opening credit sequence. That's the only Tim Burton-y thing going on in this movie. Other than like really uncanny, creepy looking monkeys, gorillas, apes. The gorillas look the best. And so he says, in that heart over there, break it open. There is a gun. It has the power of 1,000 spears. And he says, "Great, I'm going to go kill Mark Wahlberg." Mark Wahlberg and the gang that he's with, it's humans. Chris Christopherson dies in the escape because they couldn't afford him for any more movie, maybe. Or he just didn't want to do it. I don't know. So Mark Wahlberg and the gang, they get some horses, and then they cross a river because apes can't swim. Oh my God, that's
like vampires.
racial stereotype in the U.S. Black people can't swim. Oh, it gets worse.
That's a thing?
Yes, the black people are afraid of water. That's a racist stereotype. Oh my God.
Apparently they reckon they can't swim, but they can run.
Yes.
Is this a thing?
Yes, they can run really fast and they cannot swim. Those are racial stereotypes in the U.S. Oh my God. Oh, this movie is worse every time I realize something about it.
I love how something like this in any other movie would go, oh, you see, it's the subtleties about this. They're really trying to expand on these themes, and here it's just making it worse.
Yeah. And then why is that a crucial part of the story? It's so stupid. Like, it could have just been like a Western where it's a small band escaping from an army at night. But no, the apes can't cross because they're scared of water. They haven't figured out a solution. They don't know anything about boats. They have very rudimentary technology. They're comparing guns to spears. So, oh, gosh, it gets worse.
Against the lightning.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like indigenous people as well. They have inferior technology to humans, even in the future. And so finally, they, I guess, cross the river. I don't know, but Mark Wahlberg and the gang are already ahead of them. They get to the crash site, and the big, religious thing here is, and by the way, there are skeptics of religion amongst the apes. They say, like, people think it's just myths now, not actually something that literally happened, because it's 2001. I'm surprised they didn't start talking about midichlorians or something. And then, so they go to this place. Mark Wahlberg, he's following a beacon, a homing beacon, and it turns out his ship, his big space station, crashed on the planet, and he was like, well, they must have come looking for me. So where are they? I don't know. They're all gone. He watches these videos, and it turns out they did look for him. They crashed their ship, and gosh, I don't know, like, stuff happens. The apes show up.
You could have just used that for the entirety of this film. Like, think of the first one, but stuff happens.
Yeah, and so, here's what he learns. One of the apes that crashed is named Semos, and Semos is like the prime, mover of ape society. He's the Caesar or whatever from the Rise movies. Yeah, and so he is like a god. They think he's going to return to Kalima in their mythology, and so there's a big fight between Thane and his army and Mark Wahlberg and humans, because the humans come from all over somehow. They heard about it, and so they all show up there. It's very lazy. And then there's the big battle scene, which is stupid and long and boring and looks like the worst parts of Alexander, the Oliver Stone movie. By the way, he was also up to direct this at a certain point.
Everybody was.
Yeah, everybody. If you directed in the Joel Schumacher, just throw a name out. The Coens.
Just every Batman director.
Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, every Batman. And so, yeah, the what happens? There's the fight, and then God comes back. It's Jesus in his spaceship. He descends, and so the fighting stops, and all the apes get down. They're like, Semos is back. But it's not Semos. It's Mark Wahlberg's monkey, Pericles. And he's like, Pericles, what are you doing here, buddy? Oh, my God, this is so great. And he gives him a big hug. And he's like, oh, guys, this is my monkey friend. It's so... Mark Wahlberg said it. This is so great, And then, he's... I don't know what happens. They reunite, and then they decide ape-human friends.
Sam, he said monkey.
No, Mark Wahlberg said monkey. Not me.
You only said what he said.
Yes, and so, whatever, Thade apparently gets locked. Oh, that's it. He's like, I'm going to shoot you with my gun, but they close the blast doors, and he can't shoot them. And
Open the blast doors.
Yeah, and they trap him, and I don't know. It's stupid. Pericles is going to be, like, integrated into monkey ape society, simian society, and... Yeah.
I'm trying to remember because I've not seen this one in a few years. Fun enough since I did my, I think since did my Planet of the Apes ranked list. But did does Mark Wahlberg's character have a bit of a thing for Helen Bonham Carter's character? Is there a bit of a cross species romance going on?
there's
A bit of
definitely
a bit of sexual tension.
yes, there's sexual tension. I think she's more into it than him. And he's like, oh, yeah, I like this blonde lady over here, even though she doesn't have any character. She's barely in the movie, but nobody cares. I don't know her name. I don't know the actress's name. I don't know if she's been in any movies since then. And then the thing that makes him discover it's Earth, there's nothing in the past. So I was like, okay, but where's the part where he sees the Statue of Liberty? And so he gets on the spaceship that Pericles landed with. He landed it, by the way. Mark Wahlberg crashed. So he's like, look, I taught you how to fly, you stupid monkey. And
then forgot himself, yeah.
Yes, and then he gets in, crashes again in the whatever time period he traveled to, because he thinks it's contemporary America, because there's the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. But he gets out of the spaceship that he crashed and he walks up and, oh, what's that? It's now the Thane Memorial. What? And it's dedicated to Thane, who did ape stuff. I don't remember what it said. And so many questions. It's so stupid. Yeah. It's so all of the ape cops show up to arrest take half a drink to arrest Mark Wahlberg. I don't know. Why have they advanced to police car levels? Why do they have police cars? Did they read a book and they were like, oh, police car? And then who knows? It's so dumb. Everything about this is stupid. Why are they speaking English? The end just completely ruins it. Why would they repurpose the Lincoln Memorial into Thane? Why would they keep the Washington Monument? None of it has meaning.
Like, here's the thing. Part of me, I originally thought that it wasn't a repurposing. It was somehow they got the craft working, went back in time, but to like hundreds of years earlier, and then started a revolution like in the 1600s. So by the time you get there, it's just an alternate timeline with Abraham Lincoln.
It's a lot of legwork to ask your audience to do to put that together, though, isn't it? It's just...
But apparently they were throwing around loads of different ideas. Apparently, I mean, doing my live research on Wiki, there was going to be a version where instead of that, they essentially arrived back and instead of the Lincoln Memorial, they were going to crash in the stadium during a Yankees game. They're all it's all gorillas instead. It's like
playing baseball. That would have been amazing.
At a certain point, it's got to be like
Apes ball.
For horror. It's got to be like Saw for horror, where you go, where's the twist? And in this version, it's what kind of monument can we make? Use for identifying purposes for this. Like, again, I want to see Sam's thing of doing like international versions. Like, I want to see like a Tory shrine kind of thing, half done, like in that angle like that. Or the Sydney Opera House. Sydney Opera House.
I just want to see a French chimp smoking and looking really cool.
Or go back to like the original novel, like, and then do either that or you're going to end up with like King Kong off the Eiffel Tower and merge everything together.
Oh, they have their own version of King Kong. It's a person hanging off the tower.
The Eiffel Tower, yeah. Like, this is obviously what needs to happen.
Not only do we have to do the work to be like, okay, hang on, so he crashed in the future when the apes developed full-on past human society in the exact same way, but he has to work that out. Mark Wahlberg has to go, oh, I traveled to the future, and now they have police cars, and okay, this all is starting to make sense to me now.
I'm still gonna get shot.
Is it supposed to be a Rodney King thing with all the cops that are about to police brutality him? I don't know. It's like I was fine with most of the movie. I was fine with them not having the twist. Like I thought maybe Mark Wahlberg would stay and like become an ape and like. Who knows? I hate it. I hate the ending of the movie. Tim Burton asked if he would ever work on one of the movies again, and he said never. Paraphrasing. Gosh.
I think his comment was, "I'd rather jump out of a window."
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, because they did want to, off back of the weird ending, they did actually want to explain it and kind of do another film off the back of that, but Tim Burton's kind of lack of interest and audiences just generally shrugging at. I mean, it made a fair bit of money. It was quite successful at the box office, but
Yeah.
they just didn't really know what to do with it, so it kind of languished for a few years after that.
And by the way, he and Helena Bonham Carter were either together or married in 2001. So I guess it's because of this movie.
Yeah, they met on the film, got married, and she was in every one of his films up till a few years ago when they divorced.
Yeah, I'm just seeing again live research for Wiki very quickly about the ending. Apparently, Tim Roth, who played General Thade, said, "I cannot explain that ending. I've seen it twice and don't understand anything." Helen Bonham Carter said, "I thought it makes sense, kind of. I don't understand why everyone went her. It's all a time warp thing. He's gone back and realizes Thade's beat him there." That's what I thought. But even Thade's like, "I don't understand it. I've seen it twice." So essentially, even the cast are going, I think they're doing like a Big Bang Theory kind of thing.
It feels like Zanuck or some other suit was like, you got to put a memorial and a monument, something recognizable, but really only to American audiences because like y'all may know Abraham Lincoln, but like I don't expect you to know in-depth details about like him and the monument and all that garbage.
I'm gonna level with you. I think the first time I really understood what the like Lincoln Memorial was in relation to looking up that ending. Again, this is many years ago. I'm not up on my American history. I'm from Britain. I'm not even up on British history because that's how it works in a
I mean,
country.
I guess it's like your guy from the movie Amazing Grace, whoever that dude is.
Oh, Ewan Griffith and William Wilberforce, yeah.
Yeah, whoever the big abolitionist in the
William Wilberforce.
Yeah. Now, Lincoln was not an abolitionist. That's the messed up part. It was mainly to say, F you, the South. I'm going to free all your slaves. Lincoln was kind of shitty, too. So, there you go. That's Planet of the Apes, the remake.
And obviously, therefore, it's, again, the racial thing.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah. This movie just keeps getting worse. Like, the more I thought about it, like... Oh, yeah, it's a little bit funny, but it's so stupid and it's so thoughtless and so obviously just thrown together to have a movie to keep the rights that, like, it falls into a lot of unconscious or possibly conscious and ignorant biases. So,
yeah, essentially, the makeup is great because it's done by somebody that knows how to do great makeup.
Yeah,
everything else pretty much.
It's one of the best things Rick Baker's ever done, and Rick Baker's done some incredible stuff.
Well, here's the thing about great is it creates such an uncanny valley that it's stupid. Like I could tell it's Paul Giamatti under that makeup. I could tell it's Helena Bonham Carter. Also, why do some apes have accents and others don't? I don't know.
Some apes are more accented than others.
Yes. It's so... I hate this movie.
Were they actually just told to use whatever voice you speak with, do you think? Just... Look, you're going to be hot and uncomfortable in there. We can't expect you to put on a voice as well.
At least Tim Roth went for this.
All the orangutans have like a Boston accent. All the, the chimpanzees have a Texan
Oh my God,
accent,
it's my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the other one.
Very quickly, yeah, because we're cranking on a bit now. So
yeah, no, it's all right. I can do this. I can do this in time. Yeah. So yeah, after a few years of kind of trying to get the franchise restarted again, quite a few scripts went around. Quite a few directors and writers and producers were involved. This eventually kind of started to get off the ground in the late kind of 2005-ish, and they eventually set us on basically doing a bigger budget remake of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. That's basically what Rise is. It's an ape revolution again, but done much more kind of modern sensibility.
Hey guys, do you know how they get their religious texts? Divine revelation.
Right. So yeah, so this
well,
is
before that happened.
Yeah. So we followed a lead. Our main human is Dr. Will Rodman, played by James Franco,
which is also hilarious.
Yeah, he was working on a cure for Alzheimer's, and he tests his kind of latest experimental drug on a pregnant chimp called Bright Eyes. After obviously another a reference to the original film. After she goes on a maternal protective rampage, Bright Eyes is put down, but she gives birth to Caesar, who's played by Andy Serkis when he grows up. And Caesar is basically adopted by Will and taken home and raised as part of his family. So Caesar kind of he kind of his intelligence and his behavior kind of accelerates. He's obviously far more advanced than any other chimp, and he's basically he's got the same kind of level of cognition as as a child of his age, and he grows at that rate as well. He's kind of things are all pretty kind of harmonious until Caesar attacks a neighbor for distressing Will's dad, who has dementia. He's by John Lithgow. And
Is he
basically
like
after
a
this,
medical ape where like he smells when his dementia's acting up and something
no,
like
but
that?
he does kind of help him out. He notices like when he's having one of his bad days, basically. And he's almost like a service animal in that state. He wasn't designed to be that, but that's how he kind of acts. There's a good scene around the breakfast table, where he's been having a good period, on his new drugs, but then he starts to backslide. And Caesar notices he's trying to cut his eggs with like the wrong end of a fork, and he kind of just gently reaches over and just turns it around and puts it back in his hands. But yeah, so he attacks a neighbor, when he's distressing this poor old man with dementia. And and
Is it Thingy Hewitt, isn't it? Forgotten the actual guy's first name. He's in a load of stuff. He's in Cube. He's like Vincenzo
yes,
Natali's
yeah,
best mate.
I'm sure you're right.
David.
But yes, so in response to that, he's collected by animal control and basically taken to a shelter where he's horribly mistreated. The shelter's run by Brian Cox and his sadistic son, by Tom Felton. And basically, he's kind of his spirit is broken, and he mistreats, and basically he gets a bit of resentment for kind of, I was part of this family, and then in his mind they abandoned him and basically put me in this horrible place. So
I don't think animal
that's it.
shelters take in chimpanzees.
No,
Like,
in this
what?
film, in this film they do.
You'd go to like a
David
sanctuary or something. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. I mean, but it sort of is like they've got a bit of an ape kind of population here, so it is sort of like a sanctuary, I suppose.
okay. He doesn't get taken to like a. I'm picturing where the dogs are in like any dog movie.
Yeah. I was probably using the wrong term there, but yeah. It's basically it's like there's like a small population of apes there, but yeah, they've been mistreated. So basically, Caesar he decides, right, that's it. I'm gonna start a revolution. So he works his way
Big
out.
Beatles
He
fan.
kind of he works his way out of this place. So he finds a way to pick the lock and basically get himself out of this place. Finds where Will works, this lab where he works, and basically finds the formula. In fact, no. Initially, he takes the formula from his refrigerator at home because he's using it to treat his dad. But then he later goes to the lab to get more of it, basically. And basically, it infects the rest of the apes at this sanctuary, and then the apes at the San Francisco Zoo with this drug, which makes them all super intelligent.
Tell you
And
what,
then
though, it's nice for Brian Cox years later, who was behind bars for many years, to finally put
Yes.
other people behind bars and have
Yeah.
them escape. He never got to escape from
Sure,
his
yeah.
jail cell in Manhunter.
Yeah.
So very nice for them to
Yeah.
flip the script like that.
Yeah. So once all like, kind of, the apes are intelligent, and kind of Caesar's established himself as like the dominant alpha of the group. He leads them on a revolution through the streets of San Francisco. They fight a few cops and cause a bit of property damage, but essentially they just want to escape. They just hop over the Golden Gate Bridge and end up in the redwood forest on the other side. And basically to start a new life over there. All the while, kind of Will was trying to get to him and trying to convince him to come back, because he missed having his friend around. But in the end, Caesar basically, kind of tells him that, no, this is my place. I'm home now. You go live your life, I'll go live mine. And they agree to part on kind of peaceful terms, humanity and apes.
It's quite funny because it only the film's only sort of like hour 40, hour 45 long.
Yeah,
And you can
yeah,
imagine other films that have just made a 3 hour movie and this is halfway,
yeah.
and the second half is the big war to stop it.
Yeah, yeah, they saved that for the sequels, obviously. I mean,
Did it get
it's.
greenlit as a trilogy before they made the first one? So that's what
I
happens now.
I've not read that it did. No, no, I think they did a film at a time. I think, but I think it probably took Fox by surprise just how successful it kind of was. I mean, because if they weren't cheap films, they were pretty, with the
Yeah.
effects work from Weta, it did cost a fair bit, yeah, they kept making the money back and more and more. There's a nice little kind of references, in this to the original films. I mean, it is doing its own thing. It's only really using the skeleton of the story of conquest, in that ape revolution basically. But apart from that, it's doing its own thing. It's
And the name
give,
Caesar.
giving a more kind of scientific kind of basis behind like how could this happen, and kind of provide a credible origin for like the intelligent apes of this franchise. So yeah, so you got Caesar in there, essentially playing the same another version of the same character from Conquest. His orangutan mate's called Maurice, which was a reference to Maurice Evans, who played Dr. Zaius in the original. You got Buck the gorilla, who was played by who was named after Buck Cartillion, who was one of the gorillas in the original kind of films. You got Caesar's mother, Bright Eyes, which is reference to what Charlton Heston was called in the original by Zira. And a bit of a weird one. You got Tom Felson's character is called Dodge Landon, who was basically a combination of the two other astronauts who joined Charlton Heston in the in the original film. So they were Dodge and Landon.
I get their references, but they just feel
Yeah,
lazy. Like, come up
yeah,
with other names.
I know. I mean,
It's
I
not
think
even
they just
inventive. Like
yeah,
Final
yeah,
Destination, all of the
yeah,
characters are named after like
yeah,
old horror directors. So you've got like
yeah,
Hitchcock and Whale and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I would say the kind of this kind of the in jokes, the fan stuff don't really add a lot to it. They're just there to appreciate if you want to look out for them. Not essential. As I said, I think Tom Felton doing the "get your damn paws off me," line is immediately kind of undercut by Caesar's first words, which is no. It's finally he's holding his ground. And I do remember uh, seeing this in the cinema for the time. There was an audible kind of almost electricity in the room at that point. Watching on a big screen, like the audience kind of which did pause. It's like whoa. It's like
And I guess in a way it's interesting because obviously that's the first words that get
yeah,
your paws off
yeah,
me are the
yeah,
first words that
yeah,
Charlton Heston says to the
yeah,
apes.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
you have a
exactly.
kind of thing going on there as well.
Yeah,
But then also you
yeah,
do have Tom Felton in like
yeah,
his first scene when he's leaving them does do the "it's a madhouse"
yes,
line as well.
yeah,
So he gets
yeah.
two lines.
Yeah, but well, a very satisfying death for his character because he's
Yeah.
obviously a horrible animal, kind of animal
He
beating kind
literally
of
plays
person.
Draco Malfoy. It's quite
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, and he's been taking great pleasure at hosing down the apes and distressing them, like spraying cold water all over them.
Like they hose down
Yeah,
Charlton
yeah,
Heston
yeah,
in
yeah,
the original.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yes, Caesar covering notices that he's holding a taser as well, and he takes he kind of he convinces him to activate it while he's standing in water, so he kills himself. It's a bit less brutal than the original planned death for him, where he was meant to be on the bridge at the end shooting at the apes and basically getting ripped apart by the gorilla. So I thought they decided against that. There's a nice little again another one of the bad guys, the evil kind of businessman, basically the head of this drugs company, played by David Oyelowo. Um, Basically, he just keeps parroting throughout the film. So, all I care about is will this miracle drug make me money? um, and he's basically his helicopter's crashed on the Golden Gate Bridge and it's kind of sliding off the edge, and he asks Caesar for help, but Caesar, rather than killing him himself, steps away and lets Koba, who's the more aggressive, more abused ape, who's like his second in command, basically lets him do the dirty work and push him off the edge. And
I was going to
Koba
say David
becomes
Oyelowo's character in this. It's not exactly three-dimensional, shall
no,
we say? In a nice way,
no,
he's fairly one note.
Yeah, definitely.
Which
I mean,
which if
that's one thing I will say compared to, like, say, the original film with Charlton Heston especially, I think, yeah, all the humans in this, they're pretty forgettable, pretty bland, to be
Well,
honest.
and
And
also,
it's
will this dementia cure make me money? Yes. You get to choose how
yes.
much to charge for it too. That's pretty
I know,
crazy.
yeah.
That
Yeah, I mean, the character's called Jacobs, and is a great moment where he realizes, like, things have really gone south when, Koba, the evil abused, I think it's a bonobo rather than a chimp. But basically, he comes into a room behind him, and he notices he's writing something in the mist on the glass, and it's his name. He's writing Jacobs, and he turns around and gives him an evil look, and basically makes it from there.
bonobo more monkey business. That
monkey,
was a stretch.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's basically this kind of film was made with kind of Andy Serkis' performance and, like, the kind of the work from Weta. I mean, this is one of the first times, and they do this more in the sequels. One of the first times where this performance capture technology, which obviously they did with for Gollum and for King Kong. It's the first time
Yeah.
they use it in like external environments, not like controlled studios. They took it out on location and got them to, like, interact with the real world more, which I think adds a real kind of tactility to things. And it's weird to think that he's playing a fairly realistic looking chimp, but you can still see Andy Serkis' expressions, like, through it. You know, you can tell it's
Yeah.
him. You know, it's. I mean, if you ever see, like, kind of the behind the scenes footage of, doing the movements and the expressions and stuff, it's quite something. Um, and obviously on the back of this, Matt Reeves came in to do the Dawn of Planet of the Apes and War of Planet of the Apes, and so basically, like, cut to a few years later, humanity. Actually, one thing that skips over this drug. It makes apes intelligent, and while it does provide a miracle cure for Alzheimer's patients, it's very unstable, and basically it releases they call it like a chimp flu on humanity, basically. So it's
Oh,
like an
God.
airborne virus, and it basically spreads around the world and kills off most of the human population worldwide. So you see
Wow.
the neighbor who was attacked by Caesar comes into contact with one of the scientists who was infected with this drug, and he basically coughs blood all over him. And he's a pilot, and he flies around the world, basically, and spreads it. So yeah, on the back of that is the next film's kind of set about 10 years later. Most of humanity's died off. The survivors are getting desperate, and they're looking for resources and power. They work out that there's a hydroelectric dam across the Golden Gate Bridge where the apes are living now, and their site is, like, right on top of it. And it's like an uneasy kind of negotiation to kind of use that, when basically humanity just literally just keep disappointing us, keep giving into the worst impulses, and pulling out guns, and lying to the apes and everything like that. Meanwhile, Caesar kind of has a bit of a revolution within his own camp, led by Koba, who kind of feels like he's not going far enough in terms of fighting back against humans. So he kind of installs himself as the alpha male, and yeah, basically takes the war to humanity. And then the final film of the trilogy is basically the remnants of the human military fighting the full-on ape army, basically. So it's a proper war movie. And unlike Battle of Planet of the Apes, they had the budget to do it convincingly, which was nice.
way.
Yeah.
One thing about all these movies, whenever the apes have their own society, is it that they're aping humans because that's kind of their baseline, or is it writers are so uncreative they cannot imagine how ape society would differ and change from human society, we're so self-centered we cannot conceive of something else?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about these ones is they're still. I mean, I don't know whether that will change in, like, the films come, but they are still ape-like. I mean, they're communicating with sign language mostly. They can speak by this point in kind of broken sentences, but they choose not to usually, unless they've got really important points to make. When Caesar needs to do, like, a really kind of growly whisper of, like, a important kind of phrase or something. Generally, it's like sign language. I mean, one thing that I really respect about the opening of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it's a big budget blockbuster, And the first 20 minutes is all apes speaking in sign language. It's fantastic. It's like,
Well, I get they're super intelligent apes, but
Yeah.
apes can't actually use sign language. Like they found out Coco the
Unless
gorilla.
you're King Kong.
Coco the gorilla was actually just like responding to stimulus and copying. Like
well,
it wasn't.
No, but gorillas aren't one of the more intelligent great apes. I believe chimps and orangutans can use limited sign language. They have taught them that.
And these ones have been kind of genetically enhanced as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. But I mean, they've covered up data like the political commentary on this. You know, it's like moving on from like racial arguing, kind of anti-war kind of messages. This trilogy is very much about humanity's relationship with the environment and how we're basically screwing everything up. You know, and just through arrogance, essentially. You know,
and obviously animal testing and things like that.
Yeah, animal testing. Yeah, I mean, I did find myself particularly more distressed by this, kind of more upset by this, going back to it again. And you know, if you've actually got like a pet in your life, you know, I don't own a dog myself, but you know, my parents do, and I kept thinking about, like, you know, distress. My parents' dog being distressed. You know, when Caesar was kind of acting distressed, stuff like that. So it does kind of animal lovers. It does kind of affect in that way. You know, and that's probably one of the more effective things about it. You know, it's that pivoting like the meaning of the franchise towards, like, you know, we need to be more harmonious with the natural world and think about our actions a bit more, you know. So
Well, that stuff is in the Burton one. It's just like
it's much more clumsy though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
and also you kind of have to infer it. It's based on like a couple of lines. They keep the apes at the beginning in very small cages. He says the thing about we burned down all the forests. And then there's the talk about zoos.
Are you going to do Mark Wahlberg accents just in general in future? Just bust it out.
I am really fortunate that I'm restraining myself from using the F word, because that's usually how my Mark Wahlberg impression goes.
Yeah. But yeah, this is one of my go-to kind of sci-fi franchise. I really enjoy them all to one degree or another. Obviously, less so the Burton one and some of the originals, but I would say a good 50%. A good 50% of this franchise is really solid, if not verging on great. Which I think for a 50-plus-year-old franchise isn't too bad, really. So, you know,
I think, to be honest, any franchise that has 10 installments, if 50% of them are good, that's batting above average.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it on Apes, really. You know, it's
we should wind this down before we go on any longer, because people will be getting bored of us already.
Yeah. You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Film Magazine, where you can check out my ranking of the Planet of the Apes franchise and my review of the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So go have a look at those.
Hopefully you can't find me anywhere, but if you do, I'm K Judgmental in the various places. I don't have anything recently up at the moment, but there are going to be a couple of bits incoming over the next week and a half or so. So there will be new stuff on the way.
Yes, go read Jacob's archive. There's stuff there. Good stuff. And by the way, you couldn't hear me, but I said, guys, where can people find you? We're doing Roger Corman next week. Bye-bye. Or whatever. Not bye-bye. You can shop at our Redbubble store below and get cool movie gear. Unlicensed? I don't know. Whatever. And then also you could just give us money. We take money. So PayPal, that's all down in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't say that. Probably should. And
help us keep the lights on and pay for, you know, extortionate
buy more lights
fees for various aspects of the website.
Or new podcast equipment, or just money in our pockets so we can go see a movie.
I will take it in cash or check or gold
or PayPal. And anyway, that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.